The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched out like a vast arena. Rows of seats rose in circles around the central floor, where species from across known space gathered to discuss matters of trade, war, and diplomacy. The air hummed with the sound of translation devices turning alien languages into comprehensible speech. Marine Sergeant Jake Morrison stood at attention behind Ambassador Lisa Carter. His dress uniform pressed and perfect. He had been to many diplomatic events in his 12 years of service, but never one like this. Today, Earth was formally requesting advanced trade status. It was a simple request on paper. Humanity wanted access to better technology, faster ships, and medical advances that other species took for granted. They had filled out every form, paid every fee, and followed every protocol. Lisa Carter had spent 3 years preparing for this moment, but something felt wrong. Jake could sense it in the way the Zorathian delegates whispered among themselves. The Zorathians controlled a vast empire that stretched across 40 star systems. Their military was the largest in this sector of space. When they spoke, other species listened. High Commander Vextar rose from his seat. The Zorathian stood nearly 8 feet tall, with smooth gray skin and 4 arms that ended in delicate fingers. His species had evolved on a world of gentle plains and mild weather. They were scholars and bureaucrats first, warriors second, or so they claimed. The Council recognizes High Commander Vextar of the Zorathian Empire, the moderator announced. Vextar's voice carried across the chamber through the translation system. I speak today about the human application for advanced trade status. My empire has studied these newcomers carefully. We have reviewed their history, their culture, and their capabilities. Jake felt his jaw tighten. The way Vex's tar said capabilities made it sound like an insult. Humans come from a world they call Earth, Vextar continued. This planet is what they themselves describe as a death world. Violent weather, deadly predators, toxic plants, diseases that kill millions. They evolved in constant struggle, fighting simply to survive each day. Around the chamber, other delegates nodded. Some species viewed Deathworld origins as a mark of barbarism. Jake had heard the whispers before. Humans were tough, yes, but that made them crude, unrefined, not suitable for civilized society. This harsh origin has shaped them, Vextar said. They are aggressive, quick to anger. Their history is filled with wars against each other. Even now, with access to the stars, they cannot fully abandon their violent nature. Lisa Carter stepped forward. High Commander, if I may respond. You may not, Vextar interrupted. I have the floor, Ambassador. You will have your chance to speak when I am finished. Jake saw Lisa's hands clench at her sides, but she nodded and stepped back. Protocol demanded patience. Vextar gestured with 2 of his 4 arms. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, showing Earth from space. Look at this world. 70% water. Most of it filled with creatures that would kill a civilized being in moments. Land masses covered in dense forests where predators hunt in darkness. Mountains that pierce the sky. Deserts that burn. This is not a world that produces diplomats and scholars. This is a world that produces survivors. And what is wrong with survival? The voice came from Counselor Thyron, a member of the Kelson Consortium. The Kelsons were neutral in most disputes. Known for fairness, Vextar turned to address Thyren. Nothing, Counselor. But survival instincts do not translate to civilized behavior. The humans have applied for advanced trade status, but they cannot even control their own colonial borders. Pirates raid their supply lines. Their military is scattered across dozens of worlds. They have no unified defense grid. Jake knew this was partially true. Humanity had expanded quickly. Perhaps too quickly. Resources were stretched thin. But they were learning. Growing. That was the whole point of joining the galactic community. Furthermore, Vextar continued, their military is laughable by galactic standards. They call themselves Marines and soldiers, but they are merely soft mammals playing at war. My intelligence reports show they still use kinetic weapons, bullets and missiles. Technology that most species abandoned centuries ago. A ripple of laughter spread through some sections of the chamber. Jake felt heat rise in his face, but he remained perfectly still. He was here as protection and witness. Nothing more. Speaking out of turn would only make things worse. Vextar's expression shifted to something that resembled pity. The Zorathian Empire has a proposal. Humanity should not receive advanced trade status. Instead, they should be placed under protective administration. My empire will oversee their development, guide them toward civilization, and protect them from threats they cannot handle alone. That is unacceptable, Lisa Carter said firmly. Is it? Vextar's 4 eyes focused on her. Then perhaps you would prefer the alternative. The Zorathian Empire claims the human outer colonies. You have 30 days to evacuate them peacefully. If you refuse, we will remove your colonists by force and administer what we call educational correction. The chamber erupted in conversation. Some species protested. Others seemed to support the Zorathian position. Theron called for order. But the damage was done. Jake leaned close to Lisa. Ambassador. We need to contact Earth Command immediately. Lisa nodded, her face pale. This was planned. They never intended to let us have trade status. They want our colonies. Why? Jake asked. Resources, strategic position. Does it matter? Lisa's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. They think we are too weak to fight back. Vextar raised his arms, and the chamber slowly quieted. The human ambassador will have 30 days to consider our generous offer. Protective administration or conflict. Choose wisely, Ambassador Carter. The Zorathian Empire has fought and won 300 wars. Your species has been in space for barely 50 years. This is not a fight you can win. The session ended. As delegates filed out, Jake noticed many avoided looking at the human delegation. Some showed sympathy. Others showed contempt. The message was clear. Humanity was alone in this. As they walked back to their transport ship, Jake's mind raced. He had served in combat zones on 4 different worlds. He had fought pirates, smugglers, and insurgents. He knew what humans could do when pushed to the edge, but he also knew Vextar was right about one thing. In a straight military conflict, humanity would lose. The Zorathians had numbers, technology, and experience that Earth could not match. But there were other ways to fight. Jake thought about Earth, not the civilized cities and clean corridors of space stations. He thought about the wild places. The jungles where his unit had trained. The mountains where survival exercises pushed Marines to their limits. The oceans where creatures larger than ships hunted in darkness. Vextar had called Earth a death world as an insult. But what if it was actually humanity's greatest advantage? What if the very thing that made other species fear Earth could become a weapon? Ambassador, Jake said as they reached the ship. I need to return to Earth immediately. I have an idea, but I need to speak with Special Operations Command. Lisa looked at him carefully. What kind of idea? Jake smiled. And it was not a pleasant expression. The Zorathians have never encountered real predators. They evolved on a world without them. They do not know what it means to be hunted. And you think that matters? I think it matters more than they can possibly imagine, Jake said. Give me 2 weeks. If my plan works, we will not need to evacuate anything. Lisa studied him for a long moment, then nodded. 2 weeks, Sergeant. Make it count. As the transport lifted off and turned toward Earth, Jake stared out at the stars. The Zorathians thought they understood humanity. They saw survivors from a harsh world. Nothing more. They had no idea what was coming. Earth had spent billions of years perfecting the art of predation, and humans had learned from the very best teachers. It was time to introduce the galaxy to Earth's apex predators. It was time to unleash the tigers. Jake Morrison had not slept in 30 hours. His transport had pushed maximum speed from the Galactic Council back to Earth, and he had spent every minute of the journey preparing his presentation. Now he stood in a conference room deep inside Marine Special Operations Command, facing a group of people who thought he had lost his mind. Colonel Amy Hendricks sat at the head of the table, her fingers drumming against the smooth surface. She had commanded special operations for 8 years, and had seen plenty of unconventional plans, but this was something else entirely. "Let me make sure I understand correctly," she said slowly. "You want to weaponize tigers." "Not just tigers," Jake said. "Lions, leopards, jaguars. Any of Earth's big cats that we can work with." "But yes, that is the core of the plan." Captain Dan Foster, Jake's oldest friend in the service, leaned forward. "Jake, I have fought beside you in 3 combat zones. I trust your judgment. But this sounds insane." Jake clicked a button on his tablet. The wall screen lit up with footage from the Galactic Council session. Vextar's voice filled the room as he mocked humanity and threatened their colonies. When the clip ended, Jake pulled up a different video. This one showed a Zorathian educational program about dangerous worlds. When Earth animals appeared on screen, the Zorathian narrator's voice became high and distressed. "Watch their reaction," Jake said. "This is not fear of something dangerous. This is fear of something completely alien to their experience." Dr. Chris Palmer, the xenobiologist assigned to the meeting, adjusted his glasses. "Sergeant Morrison is correct. The Zorathian homeworld has no apex predators. The largest carnivore on their planet is roughly the size of a house cat and eats insects. They evolved as social herbivores in a world without significant threats. That explains their technology," Colonel Hendricks said. "They developed advanced civilization because they did not need to spend energy on defense." "Exactly," Dr. Palmer continued. "But it created a fundamental gap in their psychology. Humans evolved alongside predators. We understand hunting behavior instinctively. We know how to read body language, detect threats, and respond to danger. The Zorathians have none of these instincts." Jake pulled up more data. "I reviewed every conflict the Zorathian Empire has fought, 300 wars, and they won all of them. But look at how they fight. Long-range engagements, orbital bombardment. They avoid ground combat whenever possible. When they do fight on the ground, they use formation tactics with heavy weapons. Everything about their military doctrine assumes the enemy will fight the same way." "And you think tigers will change that?" Dan asked. "I know it will," Jake said. "Think about it. Tigers are ambush predators. They move silently. They use terrain for cover. They can take down prey twice their size with precision strikes. Now, imagine that in the tight corridors of a space station or the urban environment of a colony." Colonel Hendricks stood and walked to the window overlooking the training grounds. "Even if this works tactically, we have other problems. Tigers are wild animals. How do we train them? How do we transport them? How do they survive in space environments?" "That is where I come in," Dr. Palmer said. "We have been working on genetic modifications for Earth animals to survive in various conditions. Nothing extreme, just enhancements to their existing capabilities. Better oxygen efficiency, radiation resistance, improved healing. We could have a prototype ready in 3 weeks. And the training?" Colonel Hendricks asked. Jake smiled. "Marines have been working with military dogs for centuries. This is the same principle. Just scaled up. We are not trying to make the tigers do tricks. We are giving them targets and letting their instincts do the rest. The key is coordination. We pair each tiger with a handler who directs them in combat. Human intelligence, combined with predator instinct." Dan shook his head. "Where do we even get tigers? They are endangered. We cannot just raid zoos." "Conservation programs," Dr. Palmer said. "There are several facilities breeding tigers to restore wild populations. Many of these animals cannot be released into the wild due to medical issues or behavioral problems. We would be giving them purpose." Colonel Hendricks turned back to the group. "This is the most ridiculous plan I have heard in 20 years of service." She paused. "Which is why the Zorathians will never see it coming. You have authorization to proceed with testing. Dr. Palmer, you have 3 weeks for your modifications. Sergeant Morrison, you have the same time to prove these animals can be trained for combat. Captain Foster, You will oversee security and operational planning. If this works, we move to full implementation. If it fails, we start evacuating colonies. Clear? Clear, ma'am, Jake said. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur. Dr. Palmer's team worked around the clock on genetic modifications. They did not change what the tigers were, only enhanced what they already had. Stronger muscles, denser bones. The ability to process different atmospheric mixes. Each modification was tested carefully to ensure the animals remained healthy and comfortable. Meanwhile, Jake traveled to a wildlife conservation center in India. The director, a woman named Dr. Priya Sharma, listened to his proposal with obvious skepticism. "You want me to give you my tigers so you can turn them into soldiers," she said flatly. "I want to give your tigers a chance to serve," Jake corrected. "These animals cannot return to the wild. You know that. They will live in captivity for the rest of their lives. I am offering them something more: partnership, purpose, and danger," Dr. Sharma added. "You are asking them to fight." "Yes," Jake admitted. "But humans ask that of each other all the time. We volunteer for military service knowing the risks. These tigers will be treated with the same respect as any Marine. They will have handlers who bond with them. Medical care, retirement if they are injured. They will not be disposable weapons. They will be squad members." Dr. Sharma was quiet for a long time. Then she led Jake through the facility. They passed enclosures where tigers lounged in the sun or played in pools. She stopped at one particular enclosure, where a massive male tiger paced back and forth. "That is Raj," she said. "He was rescued from illegal captivity when he was 2 years old. The abuse left him aggressive and unpredictable. He cannot be around other tigers. He cannot be released. He spends his days pacing that same pattern over and over." "Look at his eyes, Sergeant. Tell me what you see." Jake looked. The tiger's eyes were sharp and focused despite the repetitive behavior. Intelligence. Frustration. He wants something to do. "Exactly," Dr. Sharma said. "These are not mindless beasts. They think. They problem solve. They get bored. If you can truly give them purpose, if you can truly partner with them instead of just using them, then I will help you. But if I see any evidence of abuse or exploitation, I will shut this down. Understood?" "Understood," Jake said. They started with 5 tigers, Raj and 4 others from different conservation programs. The training facility was built in a remote location, with habitats that mimicked both Earth environments and space station layouts. Jake and 4 other Marines volunteered as handlers. The first week was mostly observation. The tigers explored their new surroundings, while the Marines watched and learned. Jake was paired with Raj. The big cat watched him with cautious intelligence, keeping distance between them. Dan visited on the 5th day. "How is it going?" "Slow," Jake admitted. "We are building trust. Raj is smart. He knows I am not a threat. But he does not know if I am a partner yet. How do you make that happen?" "Patience, consistency, and proving I understand him." Jake opened the enclosure door. Dan started to protest, but Jake held up a hand. He walked slowly into the space, moving at an angle so he was not approaching directly. Raj watched him but did not tense. Jake sat down on a rock, his back to the tiger, and waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, Jake heard the soft sound of paws on grass. Raj circled around until he could see Jake's face. They made eye contact. Jake blinked slowly, a calming gesture in tiger body language. Raj blinked back. "He is deciding if I am worth his time," Jake whispered. "Tigers are not pack animals like wolves. They do not follow automatically. You have to earn their respect." Over the next 2 weeks, the bond grew stronger. Jake learned to read Raj's moods and signals. The tiger learned to recognize commands and trust Jake's judgment. They started simple training exercises, navigating obstacle courses, responding to hand signals, working in low-gravity simulators. The breakthrough came on day 18. Jake set up a scenario designed to mimic combat conditions. He placed several training dummies in a mock corridor and gave Raj a simple command. Find. The tiger moved through the space like liquid shadow. His paws made no sound on the metal floor. He used corners for cover and approached the first dummy from an angle that would have been impossible for a human in combat armor. When he reached the target, he demonstrated a controlled strike, pulling back before making full contact. Did you see that? Dan breathed. He was watching from the observation room with Colonel Hendricks. I saw it, the colonel said quietly. Morrison was right. This changes everything. By the end of 3 weeks, all 5 tigers had bonded with their handlers and completed basic training. Dr. Palmer's genetic modifications had proven successful. The tigers could survive in space environments for extended periods. Their enhanced healing meant minor injuries would not remove them from service. Most importantly, they remained tigers. Their instincts and intelligence were intact. Colonel Hendricks called a final meeting. The Zorathian fleet has begun moving toward our colonies. We have 17 days before they arrive at New Haven. Can this work? Jake stood with confidence. Yes, ma'am. These tigers are ready. My Marines are ready. We have something the Zorathians have never encountered and cannot predict. Fear is their weakness, and we are about to introduce them to the apex predators of Earth. Then God help them, Colonel Hendricks said. Because we are about to show the galaxy what Death World really means. The colony of New Haven stretched across a fertile valley on a planet humans called Hope's Landing. 5,000 colonists called it home, building farms and communities in the shadow of Purple Mountains. It was peaceful, productive, and now it was about to become a battlefield. Lieutenant Sophie Grant watched the Zorathian fleet drop out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. 20 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had built. The sensors showed power signatures that dwarfed the small defense platforms orbiting the colony. This was not a fight they could win through conventional means. All ships present and accounted for, her communications officer reported. They are broadcasting on standard frequencies, demanding we prepare for occupation forces. Sophie pulled up the tactical display. The Zorathian fleet was arranging itself in a standard blockade formation. They were in no hurry. Why would they be? As far as they knew, this was already over. Send the response we prepared, Sophie said. Tell them we are evacuating civilians and request 48 hours. That is a lie, ma'am, the communications officer said quietly. We are not evacuating anyone. I know, Sophie replied. But they do not need to know that. On the surface, Jake Morrison moved through the colony's underground maintenance tunnels. Raj padded beside him, the tiger's enhanced senses alert to every sound and smell. Behind them, 4 more handler teams navigated different sections of the tunnel system. Above ground, most colonists had been moved to reinforced shelters. Those who remained were either military or volunteers who understood the risks. Dan Foster's voice crackled through Jake's comm. Teams 2 and 3 are in position. The Zorathians are loading their troop transports now. Looks like they are sending down a full regiment. Copy that, Jake said. Everyone remember the plan. Let them land. Let them enter the colony. We want them bunched up in the streets and buildings before we engage. Understood, Dan replied. How is Raj doing? Jake looked down at the tiger. Raj's ears were forward, his body relaxed but ready. He knows something is about to happen. They all do. 2 hours later, Zorathian troop transports descended through the atmosphere. They landed in the main plaza, their engines kicking up dust as boarding ramps lowered. Zorathian soldiers marched out in perfect formation, weapons held at the ready. They wore armor that shimmered with energy shields, and helmets that covered their faces. Commander Vextar watched from his flagship in orbit. Initial landing complete. No resistance detected. The humans have abandoned the colony center as predicted. Sir, our sensors are picking up life signs in the underground areas, an officer reported. Civilians hiding, Vextar said dismissively. Send squads to round them up. We will process them according to protocol. On the ground, Zorathian soldiers moved into the colony streets. Their formation was textbook perfect. 3 squads of 12 soldiers each, spread across the main thoroughfare. They communicated through helmet systems, reporting empty buildings and cleared intersections. Squad leader Thalvan entered what appeared to be a residential building. His squad followed in disciplined order, checking each room methodically. Building 7 clear. Moving to Building 8. He never saw Jake Morrison pressed flat against the ceiling support beam above him. He certainly did not see Raj crouched in the ventilation shaft that ran along the corridor. The tiger's enhanced genetics allowed him to remain perfectly still, his breathing controlled to near silence. Jake's hand moved in a subtle gesture. Raj's eyes tracked the movement. Wait. Not yet. The Zorathian squad moved deeper into the building. They climbed stairs to the 2nd floor. Their attention focused on doors and windows. Standard room clearing procedure. Exactly what their training demanded. Jake dropped from the beam silently. His combat knife found the gap in one soldier's armor before the Zorathian could react. The soldier fell without a sound. Jake dragged the body into a side room and melted back into the shadows. Thalvan heard a noise behind him. Report. Soldier. Silence. Squad. Check in. 11 voices responded. 1 did not. Defensive positions, Thalvan ordered. His soldiers formed a circle. Weapons pointing outward. We have contact. Unknown hostiles. That was when Raj struck. The tiger came through the ventilation grate like a missile made of fur and muscle. He hit the nearest Zorathian at full speed, his enhanced strength and weight sending the soldier crashing through a wall. Before the others could react, Raj was gone again, disappearing into a side corridor. Contact! Contact! Thalvan shouted into his comm. We are under attack by some kind of creature. Requesting immediate support. The response from command was skeptical. Define creature. Large, 4-legged, massive teeth. Moving faster than our targeting systems can track. Even through the translation, Thalvan's panic was clear. Vextar leaned forward in his command chair. What did he just describe? Unknown, sir, his tactical officer replied. It does not match any known species in our database. On the ground, chaos spread through the Zorathian ranks. Jake's team moved with precision, using their knowledge of the colony layout to stay ahead of the enemy. But it was the tigers that caused real fear. Raj and his fellow predators hunted through the buildings with instincts honed by millions of years of evolution. The Zorathians tried to adapt. They formed tighter groups. They backed into open areas where they could see in all directions. But tigers were ambush predators. They used patience and timing. They waited for the moment when attention drifted, when discipline slipped. Then they struck. A Zorathian soldier raised his weapon to fire at movement in a window. Raj hit him from the side, emerging from a door the soldier thought had been cleared minutes ago. The tiger's jaws closed on the armor, the enhanced bite force cracking the material. The soldier screamed and his squad opened fire. But Raj was already gone, leaving their compatriot injured and terrified. Fall back, squad leaders shouted. Return to the landing zone, but falling back meant turning their backs to the buildings. It meant running through streets where every shadow could hide a predator. Zorathian discipline, so perfect in formation drills, began to crack. Jake watched from a rooftop as Zorathian soldiers fled toward their transports. They ran in disorder, weapons firing at every flicker of movement. Several shot at each other in their panic. Raj emerged from an alley beside him, the tigers breathing heavy but controlled. Good work, partner, Jake said quietly. He pressed a button on his comm. All teams, let them go. I repeat, let them retreat. We want survivors to spread the word. The Zorathians reached their transports and scrambled aboard. Pilots activated engines without waiting for proper boarding procedures. Within minutes, the transports were lifting off, leaving wounded soldiers behind in their haste. In orbit, Vextar watched his troops flee in confusion. Report! What happened down there? Thalvan's voice was shaking. Sir, they have weapons we did not anticipate. Living weapons. Predators. We lost 40% of our ground force in less than 3 hours. We need to reconsider our approach. Reconsider? Vextar's voice was cold. "We are the Zorathian Empire. We do not reconsider because of animals. With respect, Commander, these are not just animals. They are coordinated, intelligent, working with human handlers. Our tactics are useless against them." Vextar cut the connection. He stood and paced his command deck. Around him, his crew worked in tense silence. Finally, he spoke. "Prepare the fleet for orbital bombardment. If we cannot take the colony by ground assault, we will destroy it from space." "Sir, that violates the Galactic Council protocols on civilian populations," an officer reminded him. "The humans violated protocol when they unleashed wild beasts on my soldiers," Vextar snapped. "We will make an example of this colony. Let the rest of humanity see what happens when they resist the Empire." The colony resist, the time and Stark. On the colony surface, Sophie Grant's sensors detected the Zorathian fleet repositioning for orbital strikes. "We have incoming. All personnel to shelters immediately." Jake grabbed his comm. "This is Morrison to Fleet Command. They are preparing to bombard. We need support now." "Copy that, Morrison," a voice replied. "Help is 3 minutes out." 3 minutes. Jake looked at the colonists rushing to underground shelters. 3 minutes could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. He had shown the Zorathians that humans could bite back. But he had also provoked them into a response that threatened thousands of lives. "Come on," he whispered, watching the sky. Then, at the edge of his vision, he saw them. Human warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Not the small defense fleet he expected. This was something bigger. 3 heavy cruisers and a dozen support vessels. The cavalry had arrived. "Zorathian Fleet, this is Captain Helen Morris, of the Human Defense Fleet." A voice broadcast across all frequencies. "You are ordered to stand down and withdraw from this system immediately. Any hostile action will be met with force." Vextar hesitated. His fleet was larger, but those human ships were positioning themselves between his forces and the colony. He could win the fight, but it would cost ships and lives. And for what? A colony that would cost more soldiers to take? "All ships, withdraw to the edge of the system," he ordered. "We will regroup and plan our next move." As the Zorathian fleet retreated, Jake felt Raj press against his leg. The tiger was calm now. The immediate danger passed. Jake reached down and ran his hand through the thick fur. "We did it," he said. "They did not think we could fight back. Now they know different." Dan appeared beside him, slightly out of breath. "Morrison, Command wants a full report. They are calling this a victory. But Vextar is not done. He will be back with more ships." "Let him come," Jake said. "We proved the concept works. Now we can scale it up. More tigers, more handlers, more colonies protected." He looked down at Raj. "The Zorathians thought Earth was weak because we came from a harsh world. They are about to learn that harsh worlds produce survivors who know how to fight, and we brought our teachers with us." News of the defeat at New Haven spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Zorathian Empire, conquerors of 300 wars, had been driven back by humans and animals. Some species laughed. Others worried. Everyone talked. In the throne room of the Zorathian capital world, Emperor Zarthon listened to reports with growing fury. He was older than Vextar, his gray skin marked with ceremonial patterns that showed his rank. His 4 arms moved in agitated gestures as he processed the information. 40% casualties, he repeated slowly. "Against creatures from a primitive world. The humans call them tigers, my emperor." An advisor said carefully. "They are apex predators from Earth. Our intelligence suggests they have been genetically enhanced for combat operations." "And we knew nothing of this," Emperor Zarthon stated. "Our vaunted intelligence network failed to detect that humans were weaponizing animals. It is unprecedented, Emperor. No species has ever attempted such a thing. Animals are used for labor or companionship, not warfare. Which is why it worked," the Emperor admitted. "We did not look for it because we could not imagine it." He stood and walked to a window overlooking his capital city. Millions of Zorathians lived in harmony below, their civilization built on logic and order. But now we know. Assemble a new fleet, 10 times the size of the first. We will not make the mistake of underestimating them again. What are your orders, Emperor? No more ground assaults, Zarthon said firmly. We will engage only in void combat. Orbital bombardment when necessary. We avoid any situation where their animals can be used effectively. The Galactic Council will object to widespread bombardment. Then they should have stopped the humans from using wild beasts in warfare, the Emperor snapped. We fight with the tactics appropriate to the enemy. If they wish to be animals, we will treat them as such. On Earth, Colonel Amy Hendricks received the intelligence reports with a grim expression. The Zorathian Empire was assembling the largest fleet ever seen in this sector, 200 warships, all armed for long-range engagement. They learned from New Haven, she said to Jake. They will not put soldiers on the ground again. Jake studied the tactical displays. Then we need to change our approach. The Tigers are effective in close quarters, but they are useless if the Zorathians stay in orbit. Any ideas? Colonel Hendricks asked. One, Jake said. But you are not going to like it. We take the fight to them. Small teams infiltrate their supply ships. Hit them where they cannot avoid close combat. Dr. Chris Palmer, who had been listening quietly, cleared his throat. The Zorathians will be expecting that. They will have additional security on all their vessels. Maybe, Jake acknowledged. But they are still thinking like species that fear predators. They will focus on defending against human boarding parties. They will not expect us to bring the Tigers with us. Dan Foster looked skeptical. Jake, getting a Tiger onto an enemy ship without being detected is impossible. They have sensors, scanners, security protocols. Do they have sensors designed to detect Earth animals? Jake asked. Their technology is built around identifying known species. Tigers will not register the same way a human does. We could use that. Colonel Hendricks considered this. Even if we get aboard, supply ships are huge. How do we cause enough damage to matter? We target their supply lines, Jake explained. The Zorathians are bringing a massive fleet. That means thousands of soldiers, crew members, and support staff. They need food, water, medical supplies, ammunition. Disrupt the logistics, and the fleet cannot sustain itself. You want to start a guerrilla campaign in space, Colonel Hendricks said slowly. Yes, ma'am. We cannot beat them in a straight fight. But we can make them afraid to answer distress calls. We can make every supply run a potential death trap. Eventually, they will lose the will to continue. The plan was approved. Over the next 2 weeks, Jake and his team trained for zero-gravity infiltration. The Tigers, already enhanced for space survival, adapted quickly to weightless environments. Raj, in particular, seemed to enjoy the freedom of movement that zero-gravity provided. The Zorathian supply fleet moved through space in a standard convoy formation. 20 freighters carrying provisions for the main battle fleet, escorted by 4 light warships. The convoy followed predictable routes, stopping at designated waypoints to allow ships to synchronize their faster-than-light drives. Jake's team waited at one of these waypoints. Their small ship was powered down, drifting among debris from an old mining operation. To any scanner, they looked like another piece of junk. Target vessel approaching, Dan whispered. They were all whispering, even though sound did not carry in space. Old habits. The supply ship was massive, a cylinder nearly a kilometer long. Its exterior was covered with the gray metal alloys common to Zorathian construction. Docking ports lined its sides for cargo transfer. That is our entry point, Jake said, highlighting one of the ports. It is far enough from the bridge that we will have time before they can respond. Once we are inside, we split into 3 teams. Team 1 hits the food storage. Team 2 takes the medical bay. Team 3 goes for environmental controls. And the Tigers? Someone asked. They come with us, 1 Tiger per team. They launched from their ship using minimal thrust, crossing the distance to the supply vessel in tense silence. Jake carried specialized cutting tools designed to open Zorathian hatches. Raj was secured to his back in a specially designed harness. The tiger remained calm, trusting his partner completely. The cutting tool worked quickly, melting through the external lock without triggering alarms. Jake and his team slipped into the airlock and sealed it behind them. They had perhaps 10 minutes before anyone noticed the breach. The interior of the Zorathian ship was utilitarian. Gray walls, bright lighting, wide corridors designed for efficient movement of cargo. Jake's team moved swiftly, following maps they had studied for weeks. They encountered no crew initially. Most of the ship was automated, requiring only a small staff to monitor systems. That changed when they reached the food storage section. 2 Zorathian crew members stood near a control terminal, checking inventory on screens. They looked up in shock as Jake's team appeared. One reached for an alarm panel. Raj moved faster. The tiger had been released from his harness the moment they entered the ship. In zero gravity, he pushed off walls with his powerful legs, moving through the air like a guided missile. He reached the first crew member before the Zorathian could complete the alarm trigger, his weight and momentum knocking the being away from the controls. The second crew member screamed and fled. Jake let him go. Fear was part of the strategy. "Plant the charges," he ordered. His team moved efficiently, placing small explosives at critical points in the storage system, not enough to destroy the ship, but enough to contaminate the food supplies and render them useless. Team 2 reported similar success in the medical bay. Team 3 had encountered resistance at environmental controls, but their tiger, a female named Luna, had scattered the security detail before serious fighting could begin. "All teams, withdraw to extraction point," Jake commanded. They moved back through the ship, this time encountering organized resistance. Zorathian security forces had responded to the alarm, blocking corridors with energy shields. But the tigers changed the equation. Luna and Raj, along with the third tiger named Shadow, used the ship's ventilation system to bypass the shields. They emerged behind enemy positions, causing confusion and panic. The Zorathian security forces broke and ran, their training useless against an enemy that moved through ducts and ceiling spaces. Jake's team reached the airlock and evacuated moments before Zorathian reinforcements arrived. As they pushed away from the ship, the charges detonated. Not explosions, but chemical reactions that would spoil tons of food and render medical equipment useless. Over the next 3 weeks, similar attacks hit 6 more supply ships. The Zorathian convoy system began to break down. Crews refused to respond to distress calls, afraid of becoming the next victim. Ships traveled alone, vulnerable to attack. Supply deliveries to the main fleet became irregular. Emperor Zarthon watched his logistics network crumble. "How many ships have we lost? How many ships have we lost?" 12, Emperor. Not destroyed, but rendered incapable of fulfilling their missions. Crew morale is at critical levels. Some ships are requesting reassignment. Reassignment? The Emperor's voice was dangerous. "We are at war. There are no reassignments. The crews are terrified, Emperor. They speak of invisible predators that strike from shadows. Some claim the humans have unleashed demons." "Demons," the Emperor repeated. "Superstitious nonsense." "Perhaps, Emperor, but superstition affects behavior as surely as reality. If the crews believe they are being hunted by demons, they act accordingly." The Emperor was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Withdraw the supply fleet. Consolidate our forces. We will protect what remains of our logistics with the main battle fleet. But Emperor, that will delay our offensive operations for months. The human colonies will have time to fortify their defenses." "I am aware," Zarthon said coldly. "But we cannot wage war without supplies. The humans have forced my hand. They are using psychology as a weapon, turning our own fears against us. It is a tactic I did not anticipate from a species so young." Back on Earth, Jake received the intelligence reports showing the Zorathian fleet withdrawing to defensive positions. Colonel Hendricks smiled for the first time in weeks. "They are backing down. Not surrendering, but consolidating. You bought us time, Morrison." "Time for what, ma'am?" "Time for the rest of humanity to catch up. Other colonies are implementing your Tiger program. We are training hundreds of new handler teams. When the Zorathians come back, and they will come back, we will be ready on every front. Jake looked at Raj, who was lounging nearby after a training session. The tiger appeared completely relaxed, but his eyes tracked every movement in the room. Always alert. Always ready. The Emperor is smart, Jake said. He is learning from his losses. The next time we face them, it will be harder. Then we adapt, Colonel Hendricks replied. That is what humans do best. We learn, we improvise, we overcome. The Zorathians have technology and experience. But we have something they never developed: partnership with the predators that shaped our evolution. They think that makes us primitive. I think it makes us unstoppable. Dan entered the room with new orders. Command wants us to prepare for a diplomatic mission. The Galactic Council has requested both sides meet for negotiations. They are concerned this conflict could destabilize the entire sector. Will the Emperor attend? Jake asked. Intel suggests yes. He wants to save face. Find a way to end this without admitting complete defeat. Jake smiled. Then I think it is time we show the Emperor exactly what humanity has become. And I think Raj and his friends should come along for the demonstration. Let the galaxy see what partnership really looks like. The Zorathian homeworld was a place of stunning beauty. Endless fields of blue grass stretched beneath a yellow sky. Cities rose in graceful spirals, their architecture designed for efficiency and elegance. No fortifications, no defensive walls. The Zorathians had never needed them on their peaceful world. Until now, the human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. 3 heavy cruisers, 5 destroyers, and a diplomatic vessel. It was not enough firepower to conquer the Zorathian homeworld, but it sent a clear message. Humanity was here, and they were not afraid. Ambassador Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the diplomatic ship, watching the planet grow larger on the view screen. Beside her, Jake Morrison checked his equipment one final time. Behind him, in a specially prepared chamber, Raj and 4 other tigers rested in climate-controlled comfort. Are you sure about this? Lisa asked quietly. Bringing the tigers to a diplomatic meeting is either brilliant or catastrophic. There is no middle ground. That is why it will work, Jake replied. The Emperor needs to understand that we are not bluffing. The tigers are not a temporary trick. They are part of who we are now. Partners in everything we do. Dan Foster approached from the navigation station. Zorathian traffic control has given us clearance to land at the capital. They are assigning a heavy security presence. Of course they are, Lisa said. They saw what happened at New Haven. They know what we bring with us. The diplomatic ship descended through the atmosphere, escorted by Zorathian fighters. They landed at a spaceport outside the capital city. A delegation waited on the ground, surrounded by security forces in full armor. As the human delegation emerged from the ship, Emperor Zarthon himself stood at the center of the welcoming party. It was a calculated show of respect and strength. The Emperor had come personally to demonstrate he did not fear humanity. Then Raj walked down the boarding ramp beside Jake. The effect was immediate. Zorathian security forces tensed, weapons coming up slightly. Several took involuntary steps backward. The Emperor remained still, but his forearms moved in a gesture that Jake's translation implant identified as deep concern. Ambassador Carter, Emperor Zarthon said, his voice controlled but tight. You bring weapons to a diplomatic meeting. I bring partners, Emperor, Lisa replied calmly. Sergeant Morrison and Raj are both members of my delegation, as are the other handler teams. They go where we go. This is highly irregular. So is threatening to annihilate human colonies, Lisa countered. Yet here we are, seeking peaceful resolution. Surely your security can handle a few Earth animals. It was a calculated insult. The Emperor's eyes narrowed, but he gestured for his delegation to proceed. Very well. The council chamber awaits. They moved through the capital city in a convoy of vehicles. Zorathian citizens stopped to watch as the humans passed. Many pointed at the tigers. Some showed fear. Others displayed curiosity. Children pressed against barriers to get a better look, until parents pulled them back. They have never seen anything like this, Dan observed. That is the point, Jake said. He kept one hand resting lightly on Raj's shoulder. The tiger was calm, observing everything with alert intelligence. The enhanced genetics allowed Raj to process the alien environment without stress. The council chamber was smaller than the one at the Galactic Council. This was the Emperor's personal meeting room, designed for important but private negotiations. Seats were arranged around a circular table. The human delegation took their positions. Jake and the other handlers stood behind the diplomats, tigers at their sides. Emperor Zarthon sat across from Lisa Carter. His advisors flanked him, along with High Commander Vexistar, who looked considerably less confident than during their last meeting. "Let us begin," the Emperor said. "The Galactic Council has expressed concern about our conflict. They fear it could escalate and destabilize this sector. I have agreed to this meeting in the interest of peace." "As have we," Lisa replied. "Humanity seeks peaceful coexistence. We always have. It was your empire that made demands and threats. Because your species lacks the discipline and structure necessary for galactic society," Vextar interjected. "You are chaotic, aggressive, and now you have proven you are willing to use wild animals in warfare." "Careful, Commander," Jake said quietly. "Raj does not like being called a wild animal. He is a trained professional, just like any Marine." Vextar's eyes focused on the tiger. Raj returned the gaze calmly, unblinking. After a moment, Vextar looked away. It was a small victory, but significant. The predator had stared down the military commander, and the commander had flinched. Emperor Zarthon raised a hand. "We are not here to trade insults. Let us discuss terms. The Zorathian Empire is prepared to recognize human sovereignty over your current colonies. In exchange, you will agree to limitations on your military expansion and cease this program of weaponizing animals." "No," Lisa said simply. The Emperor's expression hardened. "No? The Tiger program is not negotiable. They are part of our military structure now. We will not disarm to make you comfortable. Then what do you propose?" "Full recognition of humanity's status as an independent galactic power. Access to advanced trade without restrictions. A mutual defense treaty that recognizes our right to defend ourselves as we see fit. And a formal apology for the threats made against our colonies." Vextar stood abruptly. "Apologize?" "The Zorathian Empire does not apologize to lesser species." "Then you will continue to lose," Jake said. He kept his voice level and professional. "You lost at New Haven. You lost control of your supply lines. Your crews are demoralized. Your logistics are in chaos. All because you underestimated us. Do you really want to continue this?" "You were lucky," Vextar said. "Tricks and ambushes. In a direct military engagement, we would destroy you." "Possibly," Jake admitted. "But you will never get that direct engagement. We will fight the way Earth taught us to fight, using every advantage our world gave us. Adaptation, innovation, partnership with species you never imagined could be military assets." He gestured to Raj. "This tiger represents millions of years of evolution perfecting the art of hunting. You have no answer to that because your world never taught you those lessons. We have weapons that could glass your entire planet from orbit," Vextar said angrily. "And if you use them, every other species in the galaxy will turn against you." Lisa cut in. "The Galactic Council barely tolerates your empire as it is. Genocide would end you." Emperor Zarthon studied the humans carefully. "You are not what we expected. I confess. We saw Earth's harsh environment as evidence of primitiveness. We believed you were survivors. Nothing more, but you have proven there is more to survival than mere endurance." "Our world taught us to adapt," Lisa said, "to find allies in unexpected places, to respect the strengths of other species rather than dominate them. The tigers do not serve us. They work with us. That is a lesson your empire never learned." The Emperor stood and walked to a window overlooking the city. "My species evolved in peace. We had no predators to fear, no harsh environment to overcome. We developed technology through cooperation and logic. It made us powerful, but it also made us blind to possibilities we could not imagine. He turned back to the delegation. You have humbled the Zorathian Empire, not through superior weapons or numbers, but by thinking in ways we could not predict. That is worth more than any military victory. He returned to his seat. I will agree to your terms, Ambassador Carter. Full recognition, trade access, mutual defense, and yes, an apology for the threats against your colonies. Vextar looked shocked. Emperor, we cannot simply surrender our position. We are not surrendering, Zarthon said firmly. We are recognizing reality. The humans have shown us a form of warfare we cannot counter. More importantly, they have shown us a partnership between species that we never achieved. Perhaps we can learn from that. The negotiations continued for hours, working through details and protocols. Finally, a treaty was drafted and signed. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Emperor Zarthon approached Jake directly. Sergeant Morrison, may I ask a question about your companion? Of course. Emperor, does he understand what has happened here today? Does he know that his presence helped prevent a war? Jake looked down at Raj. The tiger sat calmly, watching the room with alert eyes. I believe he understands partnership. He knows that we trust each other. Beyond that, Jake shrugged. He is a tiger. He thinks like a tiger. But that is what makes him valuable. He brings instincts and abilities that I do not have. Together, we are more than the sum of our parts. Fascinating, the Emperor said. Perhaps that is humanity's true strength. You do not seek to change or dominate other species. You find ways to work with them, respecting what they are. Earth taught us that lesson, Jake replied. Everything on our world is connected, predator and prey, hunter and hunted. We learn to observe, to understand, to find our place in the balance. The galaxy thought that made us primitive, but it actually prepared us for something your empire never considered. True cooperation, across species barriers. The Emperor nodded slowly. The Zorathian Empire has much to learn. Perhaps this defeat is actually an opportunity. Go in peace, Sergeant. And tell your partner that he has earned the respect of an empire today. Back on the ship, as they lifted off from the Zorathian homeworld, Dan Foster joined Jake in the observation deck. Raj lay nearby, his breathing deep and even after the long day. We did it, Dan said. Full recognition. Peace treaty. Everything we wanted. More than we wanted, Jake corrected. We proved something important. Not just to the Zorathians, but to every species watching. Humanity is not defined by our technology or our weapons. We are defined by our ability to adapt and partner with the world that shaped us. You think other species will copy the Tiger program? Some might try, Jake said, but it will not work the same way. Earth's tigers evolved alongside humans for thousands of years. We shared the same pressures, the same struggles. That history created understanding. Other species do not have that relationship with their world's predators. If they even have predators at all. Lisa Carter entered the observation deck. I just received word from Earth. The Galactic Council has formally recognized humanity's full membership. Advanced trade status approved. 3 other species have requested diplomatic meetings to discuss potential partnerships. The galaxy is changing, Dan observed. No, Lisa said. We are just showing them what was always possible. Cooperation instead of domination. Respect instead of fear. Partnership instead of control. She looked at Raj. That tiger helped us achieve peace today. Not through violence, but through demonstration of what humanity has become. A species that brings its teachers with it to the stars. Jake scratched behind Raj's ears. The tiger rumbled with contentment. Through the observation window, Earth appeared as a blue jewel against the darkness of space. That beautiful, terrible, wonderful death world that had shaped humanity and taught them to survive alongside apex predators. They mocked us, Jake said quietly. Called us primitive. Said our world made us weak. But Earth made us strong in ways they could not understand. It taught us that survival requires partnership, that strength comes not from standing above other species, but from standing beside them. The ship turned toward home, leaving the Zarathian homeworld behind. In the cargo hold, 4 other Tigers rested with their handlers. Throughout human space, more handler teams trained for the day when their partnerships would be tested again. The Galactic Empire had mocked humanity. They had threatened human colonies. They had called Earth's people primitive survivors playing at civilization, and then a Marine had unleashed the Tigers. Now the galaxy understood. Earth's harsh nature was not humanity's weakness, it was their greatest teacher. And the lessons learned in that crucible of survival would echo across the stars for generations to come. Humanity had arrived in the galactic community, bringing their partners with them. Together, human and tiger, they would face whatever challenges the universe offered. The Death World had sent its children to the stars, and they had brought their apex predators along for the journey.